And in my opinion, when it comes to this book, depth, she has none. Hey, welcome to my video. If you're from my Instagram, I love you. And if you're not from my Instagram, love you all the same. Welcome to another monthly book club where I tell you exactly what I read each month and exactly what I rated. And oof, boy, you're gonna wanna strap in this month because I have a lot of DNFs and a lot of bad reviews that might potentially make some of you angry. So if you're ready to sip the tea, girl, let's start. Before we officially begin though, a few disclaimers. Number one, I'm not here to bash books or authors. I am here to tell you my honest opinion, but I'm never here to be intentionally mean. And also, if I potentially give a book a bad rating or even if I DNF it, I don't want that to discourage you personally from reading it. And honestly, the reason for that is because reading is just so subjective. Why I might hate a book might be the exact reason that you love it, and vice versa. And honestly, both of us are valid in our opinions because that is all that they are, just opinions. One last thing before we begin, I'm gonna pop some pictures up on the screen right now for you so that you can kind of tell why I rate things the way that I do. Now, it's not a flawless system. It does need some updating. However, it is just a baseline. Okay, so without further ado, let's begin. So I feel like today, off rip, we should just start with the books that I DNF'd. So the first book that I DNF'd is Forgive Me, Father. Honestly, first of all, before you even think about reading this one, you might want to actually read the trigger warnings. And I say that because I know a lot of people don't always read them, I myself included. But for this one, you might want to because there are some really dark parts of the story. But with that being said, I DNF'd this book at around 45%. And you know what? Honestly, there's that meme of Samantha Jones saying, I don't want to spend even an hour of my life doing something that I don't want to do. And that was me this month, apparently, with all of these bad reviews. But for this one specifically, it felt very insta-lust and insta-lovey to me. And with the main male character being a priest, that doesn't really make sense, or rather, I would have personally liked for it to be more of a slow burn. And that's maybe why I didn't connect with the couple, but also I just couldn't connect with the story either. So ultimately I had to move on, and I moved on to Bourbon Secrets. I am so upset. I wish I didn't have to talk about this, and technically I don't because it's my channel, and so I could just not say anything if I really wanted to, but I mean, I'm gonna be honest, might as well. I loved the first book in this series. I had high hopes for the second because of that, obviously. And I had to DNF it. I'm so sorry. I DNF'd it at around 41%. And it's because around 29%, not much had developed between the main characters, the main couple, in terms of romance. Now, the storyline did develop. I'm not saying there isn't a story, but romantically, I didn't feel the spark between the main couple. So honestly, that was mainly the reason my heart wasn't in it at all. I wasn't even excited by their first time because I felt no spark, no chemistry, no nothing. And another thing, the main male character in this book did make an appearance in book one as a side character, obviously, and I really liked him in book one and I was super excited to read about him, but he fell so flat for me in this book. So I just had to cut my losses and move on. Lastly, Crash Landing. Honestly, I just wanted to read this book because of how cute the cover is, and I know we're not supposed to do that, but sometimes I do. And I DNF'd this one pretty early on at around 35% because it was just very one-dimensional to me. The character, the storyline, all of it was just kind of bland, in my opinion, so I just didn't want to force myself to continue. Okay, all of that felt really harsh, but now that it's out of the way, we can move on. Although, oh my god, now I'm gonna talk about Caught Up. Oh, I don't want to do this one either. Can we skip this one too? No, we're not gonna, but I'm not too happy to talk about this one. So let me give you some of the tropes first. So this is a dark mafia romance that includes the found family trope as well. So it's about Nico and Lauren, and they knew each other from high school, and honestly, Nico wanted Lauren bad, even though he knew she was off limits. Now he looks her up online and discovers that she's into adult work, and she has a connection to a nearby play club, and he immediately gets hooked, and his curiosity gets turned into a dark obsession. Now, girl, okay, so I'm so sad because book one of this series was so good. Everybody loved it. If you've been online for half of a second in the bookish community, you know how much everybody loves book one in this series, and I am just another one of the girls because I really enjoyed it, and so I was so excited for this one. And I ended up rating it 2 stars and 3 chili peppers. Okay, let's talk. So by 53% in, my thoughts were that the smutty scenes were really good. That's why I rated it 3 stars. However, I felt no real connection between the couple. They do have a past connection. Like I said, they knew each other in high school, but they're not showing us that connection. They're not guiding us through it. They're just kind of telling us about it, and even that, not much. So because of that, I can't understand why they like/love each other. And in my opinion, when it comes to this book, depth, she has none. Also, some of the things that the main character was saying are so Quarantina boots, and I mean 2013 Tumblr reblog material. The girls who get it, get it. So one example that I wrote down was grab her hand in the streets and hair in the sheets. And it's like, girl. Okay, not this. Also, there was this aspect because he's a mafia man because of his dad. He's been saying that he's been wanting to leave this mafia and that he's constructing this whole plan how to leave, and he can't do it safely, but once he can, he will, and all of this stuff. So it was a big giant buildup. And then how does it get resolved, you asked? Well, he brings the main female character to dinner one night and just sort of casually tells his dad. And he says that his dad won't really hurt him because of his mom. And I was like, well, if that was the case, why haven't you done this immediately? The huge buildup didn't make sense for this to be the end result. Very anticlimactic, if you ask me. And again, the spice was spicy, it really was, but I just couldn't get into it because I just didn't resonate with the characters, so there's that. I'm sad I didn't like this one. Okay, moving on to play the part. I don't want to talk about this one either. Why am I making this video? So this is a workplace contemporary romance. Now let me tell you what it's about. The story follows Connie and Huxley, and they hooked up at one point. Now, one thing about Huxley you have to know is that he is an ex-con, and Connie knew that, but she chose to sleep with him anyway. Now, she thought that this was an impulsive one-night stand because her best friend and Huxley's brother are engaged. Now, Connie lives in Hollywood, but because of a messy situation, goes back to her small town where Huxley lives. They plan on ignoring each other, however, that doesn't work out well because Connie actually ends up buying a rundown theater and hires him to help with the renovations. I'm not gonna spoil it anymore, let's just get into the review. Again, loved the first book. Didn't like this one. I rated it 2 stars and 2 chili peppers. I will say the start is very attention grabbing because he's in jail and you're immediately like, ooh, what happened, right? And the chapters are short and snappy, which I always love and appreciate. However, by 46%, they share like one kiss and a bunch of almosts. And I don't really get why they're not together because Huxley keeps on asking Connie, hey, why aren't we together? And she's just essentially basically kind of like, because we can't, and that's kind of it. At one point, she says that it's because of what her ex did to her, and then she sees him again and talks to him like it's no big deal and says, am I supposed to just ignore him? And it's like, girl, yeah. Now, after she does this, Huxley does post a picture of him with some girl, so that's kind of immature, but she's also kind of immature as well. And honestly, I was kind of annoyed by both of them. They both kind of keep on blaming each other, but in my eyes, they were both annoying and wrong. And the only part of it that I liked was Huxley reconnecting with his family. Otherwise, I didn't really enjoy much. Sad, but true. Now we can move on to Till Summer Do Us Part. So this is a steamy contemporary romance with fake dating and forced proximity. And it's about Scotty. So in her workplace, apparently everybody's happily married and it's very annoying for her. She can't connect with anybody because that's all they seem to talk about. And at one point she gets a little desperate and invents that she has a fake husband. And when people point out that, hey, you're not really wearing a ring at all, she says it's because they've been having problems. Now, Scotty's boss takes her to the side, tells her that her husband is a very famous therapist and that she could get her and her husband an appointment and that that'll fix all her problems, right? So instead of Scotty saying, hey, so I just kind of made that up, she goes, yeah, that's fine, and frantically goes to see her best friend who sets her up with his brother to play the part of her husband in this scenario. Now, his brother loves improv and is like, yeah, sure, I'll do it. He's also retired, he's rich, and they end up going to the appointment and then they get invited to a sort of counseling camp. And instead of saying, well, we're not actually married, they go and they end up, spoiler alert, falling in love there. So let me tell you about this charming story. I rated this 4 stars stars and 3 chili peppers. This was really a good one. Such a good summer read. The main female character is funny, the writing is witty. I like the banter between the main characters as well, and I also like their chemistry. Smut for me was between a 2 and a 3 chili pepper. Honestly, I think it's more of a 2, but because I really did enjoy them as a couple, I was able to enjoy the scenes more, so for me it's a 3 in my heart, you know? One thing I will say about this book that I found refreshing is that the billionaire main male character wasn't a grump. They're usually grumpy, but he was very positive and he was also eclectic and different from the other billionaire main male characters that I normally read about, so I really appreciated that. It was kind of like a breath of fresh air in my opinion. I will say it does take quite a while to get to the first kiss, around 60%. So if you're not a slow burn girly, maybe that's too long for you, and I do get it. However, the story was funny and interesting, so it wasn't too long to the point where I couldn't do it anymore. You know what I mean? Now, the third act breakup also is not stupid. I do get it. I just personally don't really like third act breakups, but I did understand this one. So that makes it a little bit better, and overall, I would say this was a pretty solid rom-com, so yay! Now, moving on to the last full review of the month, Wolf. Girl, this is another one that I'm super excited to talk about. This is a dark contemporary romance that is enemies to lovers and forced proximity, and it's about Wolf, who is president of the Hounds of Hell motorcycle club, and he has a lot of trauma, a lot of darkness to him. Doesn't really care about women, only uses them as a tool until she shows up, his little hummingbird, who he sort of instantly becomes obsessed with, and this is their story. Okay, and now the rating, 4 stars and 3 chili peppers. You know what? One thing I will say, hearing me say the synopsis out loud and also remembering parts of the book, it sounds a little Quarantina Aguilera, and you know what? Maybe it is, but I'll say this, I ate it up. I'm sorry. Wolf is a man, girl. Love him down. I honestly devoured like the first 50% of the book. It was just so fun and I was so giggly. There wasn't a third act breakup, but a third act complication, which I liked. I will admit that there wasn't so much to the story, but needless to say, I had fun with it anyway because of the tension and the yearning and the pull between the main male and female character. The connection between them was just too good and too fun. So I will be reading book 2 once it comes out. Okay, and now rapid fire reviews, and then I'm gonna get out of your hair. And I only have 1 book to rapidly review today, and it's just for the summer. So I rated this one 3 stars and 1 chili pepper. Honestly, it's a fun concept, a promising start. It was effortlessly funny. I liked the chemistry between the main characters. There definitely was more depth than I expected, which was a plus, but I feel like the romance was sort of a side plot, and that I guess could also be perceived as a plus to some people, but for me, it wasn't. Another thing to note was that this wasn't necessarily a closed door romance. There was definitely one scene which was not closed by any means, but it wasn't fully open either. So that's just something for you to take into consideration. Okay, and with that, we are done for today. Let me know if you've read any of these books and what your thoughts are, but I thank you so much if you made it this far, and if you did, please consider liking, maybe commenting, sharing, subscribing, all that fun stuff, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!